Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Harvard Crimson assistant skiing novel coach, Brandon Herhusky. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into coaching college skiing?
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to go into coaching from a pretty young age. I'd say around in high school. I kind of realized that, my Olympic dreams for myself probably weren't a reality, but, I could still see a cool high level of the sport by going through the coaching world. And so I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take with that. But then when this job opportunity came around, it seemed like a great opportunity, and I was excited to jump up to the next level from juniors. So it just seemed like a pretty natural fit.
What was it like competing in the University of Alaska?
It was a very unique experience. I did my freshman year at University of Vermont, where I was just competing on my own. But I wasn't actually part of the team, and so I wanted to be kind of part of that team environment. So I transferred up to a UAA, and it was great. I had a lot of really cool teammates from all different places in the world, and I felt like I learned a lot of unique things from them, and also like just being in Alaska, it's pretty different from the rest of the US. You're competing with the darkness, and it's just a unique opportunity. And so I think I learned a lot about just how different athletes react to different circumstances. And it was just a lot of learning experiences that I enjoyed. The team up there has gone through some waves. Right now they're one of the best teams in the country, especially on the guys side. And so I had a lot of really positive role models in my teammates that kind of inspired my coaching today.
What was it like getting to put on that Alaska jersey and represent, obviously, the University of Alaska?
It was pretty exciting. It was definitely a big sense of pride to be representing a school, and the Anchorage skiing community is really strong, and people love their skiing up there. So it was cool to represent not just the school, but also just the city in general. And yeah, like traveling to a lot of like the Western college races, you feel like a slight bit of an outsider being from Alaska and not from the lower 48, but puts a nice little chip on your shoulder that you're excited to prove everyone what Alaska can do.
What were some of your accomplishments during your time playing for Alaska?
So while I was competing for them, I did a couple non-college competitions, and in 2019, I think it was, I was fourth at junior nationals. And that was a really exciting achievement that I'd been chasing after from a pretty young age. And then on the collegiate circuit, it's really competitive. I think I had one top 20, which was really exciting. I got to score some points for my team. But otherwise, it was just a lot of like really feeling, that team atmosphere, and, you feel the success from your other teammates when they're doing well. And it was really cool experience.
What was it like getting to work with the Fair West North skiing?
So yeah, Far West is skiing in the US is divided into like 10 different regions, and Far West is basically California and Nevada. That's where I grew up. So, it felt good to be back at home and giving back to the sport. And that job was a lot more of like the administrative side of things, not necessarily, just competing as an athlete. And so I feel like I gained a lot of unique experiences, and a lot of, like, last year, a big part of it was like COVID mitigation plans, and basically how to, keep skiing exciting and in people's lives despite all the restrictions we were facing. And I think it was it was great. Like we really expanded our membership. We got a lot more people on skis, and it was cool to see the sport from a different angle.
What was it like getting to coach in the Sugar Bowl Academy?
Yeah, so Sugar Bowl Academy was my club growing up. It's where I really kind of fell in love with the sport. And so I was doing that while I was also working for Far West. So I was doing kind of the administration stuff with Far West, but then, really getting to work with the athletes at Sugar Bowl. And I got to work with all different ages and abilities. On weekends, I was helping with like the youth programs. So like kids between 10 and 13 years old. During the weekdays, I was working with the high school kids, and like that's kind of where you're just starting to like get into the competitive scene. And then this summer I actually got to work with kind of the first year of their pro team. And one of our athletes this summer was actually, he just went over to Beijing to compete in the Olympics. So it was cool seeing all the different stages of skiing, kids at their youth just learning the sport and having fun, all the way up to someone really competing to be the best in the world.
Of course, what was the transition like from going from club coaching and working in club to obviously going to Harvard and coaching college?
I mean, it's interesting how many similarities there are. Like at the end of the day, you're just trying to show people how to live a positive, healthy lifestyle and enjoy the outdoors. And so I think I was doing that at Sugar Bowl, and I'm still doing that here at Harvard. And I think the level is slightly raised, and people are shooting for slightly higher aspirations, and there's a little more of a serious environment. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to having fun and being outside with your friends. So it's cool to see those parallels.
What was the feeling like for you when you finally got the job at the Ivy League of Harvard?
It was pretty special. I've wanted to be a ski coach for a long time, as I said, and so this kind of felt like just the next natural step. And like I think I learned a lot while I was at Sugar Bowl, but this just felt like an opportunity to come and start developing more of my own kind of coaching philosophies, and work with just that next level up in the sport. So I was really excited.
What does a typical game day look like at Harvard for Norris?
So usually we compete in what are called carnivals, and they're basically 2-day events. And so usually we'll show up on a Thursday evening and get out on snow. The kids will start checking out courses, and I'll start testing waxes. And then on a race day, I usually am up at about 6 and getting to the, where we're preparing skis, and we start testing different waxes to help the skis glide a little better. And we're basically working on that until it's race time, and the athletes, come to the trailer, pick up their skis, and then head out to do their thing. And our job is more or less done at that point, and we're just full on, cheer mode, giving race splits and that sort of thing.
What has it been like, obviously, with the sport of skiing, and obviously from December to January is the only pretty much time it snows. What has that been like of only having literally a month?
So yeah, it's a really unique sport because we spend the large majority of the year not able to do it. And so, we're balancing with our athletes, a certain amount of running. We do a type of training called roller skiing, which is kind of a skiing simulation that you can do on pavement. And so, it's a lot of working on, just technical cues that will help them transfer what they're doing on dry land to on snow. And it's yeah, our season runs from basically late December through early March, and it goes by quick. So we just, have to figure out a way to have our athletes, most like prepared to go from the gun.
Who are some of the teams that you compete against?
So yeah, we compete in, even though we're an Ivy League school, there's only Dartmouth and Harvard have ski teams. So we actually compete in the EISA, which is the Eastern Intercollegiate Ski Association. And so we're competing against a wide range of schools. All skiing competes in one Division I setting. So we're competing against schools like UVM and UNH, who have, big, large athletic budgets and can give scholarships, all the way down to some small liberal arts schools like Colby, Bates, St. Michael's in Vermont, Middlebury College. And so there's a big range, and it's impressive to see how even the differing levels of budget opportunities, how competitive all these teams can be. And it's pretty cutthroat, but it's a lot of fun.
What is it like, obviously, competing against those small schools like UMD and Colby?
I mean, it's you can't count them out. The coaches there do a really good job preparing their athletes with the opportunities they have, and yeah, I mean, their teams are good. Everyone has, athletes who could be fighting for podiums every weekend, and so you just can't count them out. Every team that we're going against has potential to beat us, so it's a good fight.
What is it like, obviously, competing against Dartmouth?
Yeah, I mean, Dartmouth is kind of unique since they're the other Ivy League school in the conference. I think, historically they've had a really strong ski program, but it's exciting to, have the chance to be competitive and, bring that a little bit of that Ivy League rivalry to skiing. And they're definitely a team we chase after for sure.
What are some things that you've accomplished in your first year as coach at Harvard?
Yeah, I mean, so I've only been here since about August, but I think already we're seeing some really big improvements. I think, we've gotten, I think one of the big sources of pride that we have is that we feel all of our athletes are in a place where they could potentially, have personal best performances this season. And I think that came from, just really looking at the individual and figuring out the best way to, balance their schoolwork with what training we're doing and what sort of training will get the most out of their time with us.
Of course, for you, what has it been like adapting from, obviously, you skied in college and now you're coaching? How have you adapted to that?
It's an interesting transition. Skiing's a pretty tough sport, with, you're out in the cold and you're racing, up to an hour long events. And, as an athlete, I loved it. I loved, going and racing, but I think it's really special when you get to see one of your kids do, like, have one of those breakthrough days. And, those are fun to do as yourself, but it's even more special to know that, like, you were involved in them, having a really satisfying and fulfilling day out on the trails.
What are some similarities and differences between, obviously, the sport that you coach, which is Norris, and then airplane?
Yeah, so with NCAA skiing, the way, like, at events and at, NCAA championships, the team scores are combined: men's, women's, Alpine, Nordic. It's all together, but Nordic is much more of an endurance sport. Our events are usually at a minimum 15 minutes, but they extend all the way up to an hour when we're doing 20Ks. And Alpine is much more of like a power and skill based sport. Their events are only taking place they're pretty much all under a minute and a half. So the training is totally different, but it's college skiing is really special because even though the sports are so different, you really get that sense of team camaraderie across the two disciplines. And yeah, it's a cool environment.
Of course, do both of them get to use the same kind of board, or is one board different?
Yeah, so it's totally different equipment. Nordic, it's a lot about, finding the lightest, most efficient stuff. When you're skiing up a hill, you want to be as efficient as possible. So having light equipment really helps. And Alpine is only going basically downhill. They ride a chairlift up, so they're usually on a much firmer, icier slope. So their stuff is really heavy. It's got metal edges, and it's completely different. But it with it being one sport, even though they're completely different, we're still one fighting to be on top.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to compete in skiing on North Pine?
So a lot of our, like, the US has a pretty strong development model, where kids, they learn to ski at a pretty young age, and then they start racing at around age 13 or 14 and work their way up through kind of more and more competitive races. And so there's usually a couple big marquee events like US Nationals and US Junior Nationals, where we're looking to see what sort of results people are pulling from there. And basically, kids will do these events, send us their results, and from there we'll kind of decide, at the athletic level, whether they might be a good fit for our team.
Of course, what are some of the things that you look at in these prospective student athletes, obviously when you're seeing them on the slopes?
Yeah, so like, obviously there's the result side. We want kids coming here who are competitive and ready to make an impact on our team. But I think a bigger thing for us is looking at whether they'd be a good fit for Harvard. And so what that means is, they're engaged and excited about what they're doing. And I really look to see how, they're interacting with their teammates and their coaches at the club level. I want to see a kid who's smiling and talking to their teammates and not just off in their own world. When vans are showing up at races, I want to see someone who's helping their team unload equipment, set things up, load it back up, and is really just a team player. I think that's what makes a good fit for us.
What does the official visit look like at Harvard for skiing in Norris?
Yeah, so usually the spring of their junior year, we'll have them come for an unofficial visit, and they'll get to meet with us, and we'll briefly show them around the school. But then kind of fall of their senior year, we'll have them out for an official visit. And during that, it's been a little different with COVID, but in non-COVID years, we'd have them stay in the dorm with one of our athletes, eat meals in the dining halls, get a feel for the campus. And then, so that they can get a feel for our team, we usually bring them out to a practice. So they'll get to ride in the team van. We'll see how they're kind of interacting with our team. And then they'll get to watch basically how we do our business on a daily basis at practice.
What is it like as a coach seeing them obviously watch those athletes that already are on the team whenever they're practicing going down the slopes?
Yeah, and like that's a big thing. I want to see, like, if it looks like what we're doing isn't intimidating. It's something that they're used to, and they feel like they could be, they could jump in the practice right now and start pushing everybody. Like, I think that's a really positive thing to see. But again, with like that teammate thing, when we're riding in the vans, we want to see them, not afraid to step in and talk with the different athletes and like be able to hold a conversation. And I think that's a really good indicator of whether they would be a good fit for us.
Of course, as a coach, what is it like obviously seeing those prospective student athletes, seeing what obviously they offer to the team?
It's cool. Like, I think, it's not everybody who we see as a great fit, but every year we have, a certain number of kids who come in and can clearly hold their own, and they're interacting well, they're engaged in what everyone's talking about, and it's exciting when you do see one of those great fits, because you're like, yeah, that's a guy or a girl that we definitely want on the squad.
Of course, is it a co-ed sport?
Yeah, so since it's Alpine and Nordic, but also men's and women's, so we're one team. All our practices are with both guys and girls. I coach the guys just as much as I do the women on our team.
What is it like obviously having a co-ed sport for skiing and not obviously saying, oh, here's the men's skiing, here's the women's skiing?
I think it's cool. I think honestly the guys probably get the biggest benefit from that, because our women are really talented, and they show up to practice focused every day, and they're able to push our guys. Like, if we're doing an intensity session and one of our women are starting to push the pace a little bit, it's a good little push for them, that they can do more, they can dig a little deeper. And I think it's unique to skiing, but it's pretty cool to see.
What are some of your future plans in coaching at Harvard?
Yeah, so right now, I think especially on our guys side, we have a pretty exciting bunch with us. We have one kid taking a redshirt year so that he could go after his Olympic dream, and he did qualify. He'll be representing Canada in Beijing. So we're excited to get him back, but we have a couple really talented domestic skiers. We have a Norwegian guy who's really talented. And I think, over the next 2 years, Harvard skiing could really make a big jump to be one of the most competitive teams in the nation. And so I'm excited to be a part of that, and really see how far we can go with this group.
What advice would you give those prospective student athletes that are looking to go into college skiing?
I think any athlete who's looking to kind of pursue skiing at the next level, I'd remind them to just have some fun with it. It's pretty easy to get really serious and in your own world, but at the end of the day, I preach it all the time. It really is about just enjoying the outdoors, living an active lifestyle, and I think just embody that. Have fun with your friends who you train with every day. Enjoy the ride of going to competitions and seeing new parts of the country and the world. And if you're having fun and really living the life to its fullest, the opportunities will come to you.
What advice would you give those college skiers looking to obviously determine which skiing they prefer to do, whether it's Norris or airplane?
So you usually decide that at a pretty young age, since they are such different sports. Our Nordic athletes have usually been training, pretty competitively for 4 or 5 years by the time they get to us, and it's the same on the Alpine side. So I think they come in and they're pretty set on which side they're going on, but at the same time, I think it's really valuable to be a well-versed athlete. And a lot of people kind of pigeonhole themselves into one sport at potentially too early of an age. And so I think continuing to Alpine ski, continuing to Nordic ski, it all crosses over, and it just helps you build kind of that natural athleticism. So I think it's important to, keep trying everything, even into your high school years.
What advice would you give those college skiers looking to go from playing college to obviously going to the Olympics and performing professionally?
Yeah, like it really does come, like it comes down to that same root thing. If once you start falling out of love for the sport and you don't enjoy, doing the hard training and, doing the long roller skis and runs in the rain, you're going to have a miserable time. So even once you get to the college level, when I see one of my athletes who's at the Olympics now, like that guy just loves every bit of it. He loves working hard. He loves pushing his friends. He loves, trying to get better every day. And I think as long as you're holding on to those kind of core values, you can make that next jump.
What advice would you give college coaches looking to get into the sport of skiing?
I think it's probably pretty similar to a lot of other sports. I think you need to start, developing your philosophy. You need to see what's important to you and what kind of values you want to instill in your athletes to make them, better people and better leaders of tomorrow. And so, you need to set on that. For me, it's enjoying an active lifestyle and being in the outdoors. But then also, I think it's important just to be yourself. I think a lot of athletes can kind of recognize when someone's out there just kind of faking it. If you're not a really, tough, hard person, don't try and act like a tough, hard person. And if you're not, super bubbly and light, like don't do that. Be yourself. And I think your athletes will respond really positively to like seeing the real you and how, you actually want the world to work.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with Harvard Skiing at?
Yeah, so if you want to check out my Instagram, I'm on Instagram at DingoXC, like the Australian dog, and then cross country. And then to follow along Harvard Skiing, we're on Instagram there, just Harvard Skiing. And then you could also check out, kind of more in-depth details of all our competitions at gocrimson.com.
Thank you again, Brandon Herhusky, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Harvard Crimson Skiing Norris.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure to be on here.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Brandon Herhusky, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.